or the starting tractor on somebody else's map where that was the tractor they decided was the starting tractor. And then on Farm Sim 19 it's the 7210. Yeah, the 7200 Pro Series, which is an old case tractor, and again a starting tractor. Oops, missed. On a bunch of maps. So I've never really used case as one of my featured tractors. I did, what was it, the Old Stream Farm I've done as a Fent farm, and a New Holland farm, where I've pretty much stuck with a single brand. Our long-running Saturday streams tend to be, you know, whatever tractor will work for me, and I think on Lawfold's for a time I did use the Case 1455 XL again. Just because I think that there was some form of mod conflict with a couple of the mods I was running, and it was the only small tractor that was capable of moving the water bowser that I was using. And eventually I gave up on that and got a pickup with a water tank on the back and used that to water the animals. Animal extension mod, great help, because you just stick the pipe in the ground and leave it. Obviously using Seasons, I could actually use the Seasons water tap thing. Now while that doesn't fill the water up to 100%, what it does do is keep the water above zero. So it does periodic checks on the water trough and basically fills it up to about 10% each time. I'm okay with, you know, actually taking the time out to go and fill the water while I'm feeding the animals, and they might need to be fed this morning. But for right now, it feels like we're doing okay, but we're not really that far into this field. And the other thing is I really need to get a personal farm up and running and do the last couple of Farm Sim 19 achievements that I haven't done yet. It's basically cows and pigs breeding, and contracts. I think we're going to do the contract one on this farm. That's not going to be difficult. Cows and sheep, I'm not sorry, cows and pigs, I'm not really sure fits with our farm. I could get a bunch of cows, but the rate, well, and then again, we're going to be running this farm probably through to spring of 22. Obviously, with the number of sheep we're running, that's not difficult. Yeah, we have 500 sheep at the moment, and when you're breeding about 500 sheep every year, or 100% sheep every year using seasons, then that's a very easy achievement to run. Cows take 9 months to start making baby cows, and so it's later in the game, and I really haven't progressed any of my private farms that past a year yet, which is a little bit sad. But then again, I did lose a bunch because of the hard drive failure, which lost all of my game saves. The other, obviously, chickens actually was a surprise. I did that in 1 year and on Ungersheim, where I think I bought 50 chickens, and you need to breed 100, and we maxed out 200 before the end of that first year, and then I moved and couldn't complete the series, and then the map was changed or updated, and I kind of didn't, I couldn't have rebuilt what I had because of how the map had changed. Unlike this one, where we did switch from Oxygen David's base map to the Farming Agency's enhanced map. But even doing that, you can rebuild the game save even though it's on technically on a different map. So you have to use the developer's toolkit to make everything happen. But yeah, having a larger than one wifey family tends to eat into your playtime, especially since Mrs. Osa's not feeling too well, so I end up having to spend a lot of time shopping and cooking and all of that sort of stuff. And it's nice and sunny today. I think when I checked the weather report beginning of this week, or weather forecast beginning of this week, it was suggested that it was going to be thunderstorms today and tomorrow, which not particularly good for doing yard work. But the latest check seems to be that it's going to be bright and sunny today and probably 95 degrees, and also not fun for doing yard work, but it's not wet, it's not thundering, so I can jump on the tractor and drive around the yard, cut the grass, which sorely needs it. I probably can't do it in one pass. It's that bad. Sorely needs it. I'm going to run down the edge here and just get it so we don't have to drive through the hedge every time we get to the end and turn around. And when we get to the other side, or the top end of the field, I might do this again. Roll into the wall, yay. I'm also not sure I'm going to be able to do Dude, quit rolling backwards. I'm not going to be able to do 2 passes on the yard either, because there's going to be so much grass laying down that it's probably going to mess with the mower blades. So hopefully I get a chance to do it this week and next week. Also need to change the fish water again. That was an intent last week, but Mrs. Osa's tests took longer than we expected. Well, she was kept in overnight for 2 nights, so I lost all of last weekend and all the plans. Actually hitting that. I missed a little bit along the edge there. It looks like it's hard to tell from the tyre track and the consecutive ploughed rows that I'm actually hitting the entire field. Obviously the plough itself is inside of the front tyres. We're running wides with weights to provide us additional traction, and then we're also running a weight on the front for traction as well. Okay, I'll lift that up and I will run the plough wrong way down the field. Because we're pushing the dirt sort of south-ish, and this is going to push it more west. So you're not supposed to do that because you'll leave a groove in the field where you reverse direction. I should come up, well no, even coming up the field I'll still be pushing it to the left, so it's not the greatest plan, but it's the plan I'm going with. And as you can see from the potato planting lines, it's the way I did potatoes. And crash into the tree. Not do. Okay. Whee! Holy mackerel. Okay. And a tiny little bit along the bottom here. Actually, I missed a bunch, so that's awesome. Here the tractor's struggling a little more going uphill, but it's not more than it can handle. Ploughing speed 7 miles an hour, and we're pretty much making that. That's going to be another thing you can tell in Farm Sim 22 far more obviously. I think this is a mod tractor, so it may be that the sound files for this tractor take into account the vehicle power output. But we are going to have, from what I understand, different sources of sound in Farm Sim 22. Oh, that's actually the right way round. Kind of like what they did with Train Sim World was in Train Simulator, they basically modelled a train as a single item, locomotive as a single item, passenger cars, freight cars as single items. So, you know, it's a single object, and that generates the sound and the load. But with Train Sim World, because they're using, is it the Unreal Engine? They actually have each component of the train, technically, is modelled. So the suspension is separate from the wheels, is separate from the chassis, is separate from the transmission, is separate from the engine, and doing that allows them to more realistically, again in theory, model a train so that it feels more real. And I guess that's kind of what they're looking at for the sound improvements on Farm Sim 22, is to have sources of noise like the transmission, like the engine, like the load on the engine, like the hydraulics, possibly even the springs on the driver's seat, and all that sort of stuff, so that it sounds more authentic. Which is going to be good, I think. I mean, from a gameplay perspective, it's... Does it matter? No. But, yeah. I appreciate improvements to a game that make... what is it? I mean, it's kind of like the big old argument in Farm Sim about, oh, I want 3D ground. And it's sort of, yes, it would be nice, but is that why I'm playing the game? And the answer's no. I'm playing the game to have fun being an electronic farmer, farming pixels. Would I not play the game if it was introduced? No. But it's not something I need to be able to play the game. There's some things that, I've gotten really used to in Farm Sim 19. Wasn't available in 17, he's going to be part of the game in 22. Which is this whole driving experience where I'm running a mod that allows me to select drive and reverse, thus my steering wheel and pedals work like my car does. So it's a lot more natural for me. And that not being in Farm Sim 22 would kind of degrade the game for me. I like playing with seasons. Some people don't like playing with seasons. I do like playing with seasons. So, getting into Farm Sim 19, I wasn't really ready for a major series in Farm Sim 19 until Seasons was released, which generally takes about a year for Realismus to get everything set up, and then for Giants to patch their game to allow Seasons to actually work and not be script based for console players. So, there's that. I want Seasons, I want the driving experience. 3D ground textures, I don't care, because it doesn't change for me how I play the game. Now, some people want that realism, some people like things like the manual attach mod, where you reverse up to something and you have to get out and click a key to manually attach it to the back of the tractor. And I don't feel that need. Since we rebooted this series, I like the realistic seeder mod, which allows me to buy the seeds I want to plant, and I can't just buy generic seed and plant any crop I want to. Do I need that to play the game? No, I actually don't need to play that to play the game, but I like it. The manure system mod, frustrating as hell to get out, but I kind of like using it, except when it gets way too frustrating. But it's the difference between what makes the game more enjoyable and... I'm just going to drive through the field. And what's kind of... I kind of like that, but I don't need it to enjoy it. But I'll play with it if it's there and it works properly. Now, part of the thing, they're not doing 3D ground check textures, but they are doing parallax occlusion, which gives the game a more 3D feel. Now, part of that the ground on the other side of that hedge is what they call, I can't remember what they call it. They have a technical name for it, but it's basically because parallax occlusion. That's it. You can't see the ground, so we don't have to 3D texture it. Whereas the ground we're driving on, they commit graphics processing power to render it in 3D or pseudo 3D. It's not 3D, it's still flat, but as you move your camera around, the 3D-ness of the image follows you. Kind of like, what is it, horror movies where you've got the paintings on the walls and the eyes follow you. It's kind of like that, but if you can't see the painting and the eyes, they don't need to map that. So they don't, and that saves on processing power. But back when I started Farm Sim, I had a significantly older PC. It was almost to the point where I needed a new PC just to play new games. And when I started playing Lawfolds on it, it seriously had issues. And if you've ever analysed the Lawfolds map, it has a lot of decoration, shall we call it, in things like the workshop. I mean, this map has decoration in the workshop. There's a bench, there's tools, there's stuff like that. But Lawfolds, Farm Sim 17 went seriously over the top with decoration and discarded machinery at the side of fields. You know, old plows, old grain trailers, old school buses, whatever. But yeah, so much so that my old PC had problems rendering everything. And I'd be driving up to the main farm, and if, you know, that village in front, or no, actually that's our farm, but if that was the Lawfolds main farm, it would start, the game would just chug, because it's trying to map every single piece of decoration in the farm, even though it's behind a wall in a shed somewhere. And Lawfolds was almost unplayable on my old PC. Now, I could get around that by just basically tipping the camera out like that and driving up to the farmyard, looking at the tractor and the ground. And that was how I did, you know, I eliminated that problem, that graphics drawing problem. So, you know, looking at the shed, no, that would slow everything down, doing that. Okay, now I can't see the buildings. It's not trying to plot what I can't see. So, or what's not in front of the camera angle. Then as I got close to the farm, I could level off the camera because the number of buildings was that much less in the field of view. So that was a little bit of a struggle with my old PC, and with this one, Lawfolds was just a dream to play, because this does have the graphical grunt to do what needs to be done. Now, the whole parallax, whatever they call it, that might overstress some PCs, and you know, it'll boil down to if a map has too much stuff, which, you know, people like Oxygen David like to include a lot of stuff on their maps, make them as realistic as possible, but that can detrimentally affect an older PC. So might have to turn off the whole 3D emulation thing in order to play their maps, or upgrade my PC, which I'm not planning to do anytime soon. So that goes on to the, do I need the 3D imaging thing? No, I don't. Will it make the game unplayable? I might do. Depends on the PC and the horsepower of your graphics and everything else. So do I mind that I would have to turn it off? No. If I can, if it allows me to play the game at normal rates. But if it's there, I'm going to play with it on, so long as it doesn't degrade my PC performance. There are a bunch of people walking past, which means there might be somebody knocking on the door in a minute. Don't know what's going on. I guess I will find out in a minute if they decide to knock on the door. A bunch of women pushing their kids around in oh, a small kid coming. Okay, looks like I might need to pause and turn the microphone off. I will be back in a couple of minutes, I guess. See if there were... Oh no! Stuck something under the door and went, so that's fine. There's something in our door. Maybe. I thought some kid came up and maybe hung something on the handle. Or not. It's a local church leaving stuff on the doors. So, yay. I kind of thought it might be. Because one of the women went over to the neighbour's house and he has his garages open and stuff out, so anyway, how are we getting on? Getting up to 9 o'clock on day 5 mid-autumn. Real time 11:30, so probably get this task at least finished, and then jump over to the Valtra, see if we can get some herbicide put down, and I'll probably call it a day at that point. Maybe. What church? Kind of wondering if it's the church over on the corner, or whether it's someone who's come further afield. Oh, Lomas Park Baptist. Yes. Our church actually has dealings with that church occasionally. I think some of our membership have gone there when they left our church. Not because